Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to Midvale Community Lutheran Church. My name is Pastor Blake Rohr, and I'm one of the pastors serving here, and I'm very glad to welcome you, and it's really heartwarming to see this wonderful group that's gathered today to learn and discuss this important topic, and I'm really heartened by this group that wants to learn and make a difference. And so welcome to each and every one of you. We're really glad you're here. This event is sponsored by the Interfaith Peace Working Group, the Wisconsin Council of Churches, and the ELCA's South Central Synod of Wisconsin, which is the ELCA regional judicatory in the weather map, I always say, on the local Madison News, if you want to know what area we are in. We are really glad to have you here. A couple of things to note. There are restrooms down the main hallway on the right-hand side, and there's a water fountain and water bottle filler there as well. On the gathering area, there is a table by the Madison Rafa Sister City Project. There's also a table right on the entryway that has some olive wood carvings from Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and the proceeds from any purchases of those will go towards the ELCA Lutheran Disaster Response effort to support what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank. You can also use a QR code if you'd like to make a donation to the ELCA Lutheran Disaster Response that is working on the ground in those areas through the Lutheran Church and other organizations to try and bring relief. I think those are the announcements I want to say. So welcome to all of you, and I'd like to introduce Marie Leafblad, who is the Associate to the Bishop for the ELCA South Central Synod of Wisconsin, who will introduce our speaker. Welcome, Marie. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. I am Marie Leafblad. I serve as the Associate to Bishop for Leadership Support in the South Central Synod of Wisconsin. And on behalf of our Synod, thank you all for being here tonight. Bishop Joy Mortensen-Wiebe would have loved to be with us this evening. However, she's enjoying some much-earned and well-deserved time with her grandson and family in Texas. It is my deep honor to introduce my friend and my colleague, the Reverend Khader El-Yateem. Khader is a faith leader, a community organizer, and a bridge builder in every sense of the word. Born in Bethlehem and now serving as the ELCA's Executive Director for Service and Justice, he brings a lifetime of experience that's rooted in justice, dialogue, and deep compassion. He founded Salem Arabic Lutheran Church in Brooklyn, co-created the Bay Ridge Unity Task Force after 9/11, to strengthen interfaith relationships, and has worked tirelessly across civic, healthcare, and religious spaces to support immigrants, families, and the underserved communities. Whether serving on community boards, building police community trust, or advocating for affordable housing, Khader leads with integrity and with vision. What I most cherish is his unwavering belief that we are better together. He doesn't shy away from difficult conversations, especially around Palestine and the Middle East, but he approaches them with empathy, with clarity, and a call to see one another's full humanity. Tonight's presentation invites us into a deeper conversation, a deeper awareness, a truth that is too often ignored or silenced. We will hear about the lived experiences of Palestinians under siege, the heartbreak of international silence in the face of their suffering, but the remarkable resilience that they continue to embody. This is not just a political issue. This is a human one. Khader helps us to see that every headline, there's a person. Behind there's a family, there's a community that is longing to live in dignity and in peace. He will challenge us to listen, not just as bystanders, but as people called to care, to act, and to stand together, because peace can only come when we recognize one another's full humanity. So please join me in welcoming our presenter, the Reverend Khader El-Yateem.
I was afraid what she's going to say. So well, let me start by saying good evening and thank you so much for the honor and the privilege to be with you this evening, and for Pastor Blake and the council and the leadership of this congregation for opening their doors to welcome me and to welcome us to speak and to discuss this very difficult situation that is unfolding before our very own eyes, on our screen TVs and our cell phones. And tonight, hopefully, we can work together to get a better understanding of what's happening and how we can get more engaged in the process of bringing about justice and peace for both Palestinians and Israelis. So good evening again, and Pastor Blake, thank you. Thank you so much for your welcome and your hospitality, and thank you for your church council and leadership for their love, for the support, and opening your church for such an opportunity for us to have this conversation. So as Pastor Marie says, I was born and raised in Bethlehem, not Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the real Bethlehem. And I always say that Jesus is actually my cousin, but he's on my mother's side, because that's really the good part of the family. And when I applied for the seminary in Philadelphia and I submitted my paperwork to be accepted for my MDiv program, the person who was working on my admission was reading my paperwork. He was born in Bethlehem and his father is carpenter. So he called the president and he said, "I think Jesus is applying for our seminary." So I said to him, not that quiet, but my great-great-grandmother used to babysit him when he was a little baby. So thank you again for being here. And I know this is a very difficult conversation, but hopefully we can walk together. And two things I want to do tonight. One, I don't want you to walk away from here being a pro or against. I want you to walk away tonight from here being for justice, for peace, for humanity, for restoring the dignity of every single person that is created in the image of God. So tonight I am not trying to convince you to be pro-Palestinian against Israelis. If I do that, that means I have failed. Because our calling as a human people is not to be pro or against, but to be for everyone. And if I can achieve that tonight, then I succeeded. And hopefully we can do that. The second thing I want you to know, and I hope to achieve, that human suffering impacts and affects every single one of us. And as an Arab, American, Palestinian, Christian, Lutheran pastor, I want you to know that every single day I pray for peace and justice, and I pray for the Israeli hostages to be released and returned to their families safely, because I refuse for them to be used as a bargaining chip in unjust war. If we are serious as disciples of Jesus about the issue of justice, then we need to speak justice to everyone, not only for certain people. I was the first person to condemn the shooting in Washington, D.C., because first, it does not serve the Palestinian cause. Second, I don't believe that violence is the solution to a very complicated crisis. We need to find a non-violent solution to bring a sense of justice to the land that we call holy. So this is what I'm hoping to do with you tonight. Gaza and the West Bank, a struggle for survival aimed genocide. And the objective of tonight is to work together through this presentation to eliminate the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the West Bank, emphasizing the lived experiences of Palestinians, including myself, where I will be sharing my own story with you tonight. And I hope my story can inspire you to be motivated and activated in the way of justice so we can restore human dignity for all. And the international community's response and the resilience of the Palestinian people. First, to me, peace is not something cheap. It's very expensive and costly. And when we speak about justice for Gaza and the Palestinians, we need to define what we are talking about. The essence of peace is not merely the absence of war. It is the presence of justice, dignity, and a human flourishing in every community. Just for you to know a little bit about Gaza, in the past 19 months, since October 7 till this day, 601 days after October 7, what happened there? Israel has killed more than 54,000 people, Palestinians. The vast majority of them are children and women. What's fascinating to me, the Israeli government can tell you exactly how many Hamas fighters they killed. But they cannot tell you how many children and women they killed. Which is fascinating to me, how they are trying to promote a narrative that is false to justify their criminal acts in Gaza. If you have watched the interview with Piers Morgan with the Israeli ambassador in UK, and he said to her, "Don't treat us like idiots. You have something to hide in Gaza. Otherwise, allow the international press to enter and investigate to themselves so they can reveal the discoveries what they are finding. Why you always take the international press guided by the IDF, by the soldiers?" And she tried to justify that is because of your safety. He said, let us be the judge of that. Let us go in and find out what's happening. What are you hiding in Gaza? Piers Morgan's question is very important. We know what Israel is hiding in Gaza. They are hiding the killing of 54,000 plus Palestinians. The injured more than 123,000 people. Many of them are children and women, according to the United Nations. And it has destroyed and damaged 92% of homes. Just think about that. 92% of homes have been destroyed or damaged by the Israeli war on Gaza. And displaced hundreds of thousands of people, many and multiple times. Go here, it's a safe zone. They go and they are bombed and killed. No, go to here, they go, they are bombed and killed. And one of the most breaking pictures, I didn't want to put that video here, is when the Israeli bombed a school, and you see this little girl walking through the fires. That is what's happening in Gaza. Unfortunately, you and me are part of that. You will ask me how? Your tax money is contributing to the war on Gaza. Our country here in the United States, by continually and unconditionally supporting the Israeli government war on Gaza, we are part of the genocide that is happening there. Every time the United Nations want to pass a resolution, and the only ones to vote that resolution, the United Nations, we are supporting the genocide that's happening in Gaza. We are supporting the ethnic cleansing that is happening in Gaza. Our diplomatic coverage, our tax money, our weapons that go to Israel so they can carry these attacks on the civilian, innocent Palestinian people. And part of tonight and being here tonight on a Thursday night in this beautiful day in Wisconsin, and I hope you came out because you are looking and searching for ways in which you can be active in the advocacy process to hold our elected officials accountable. We elect them. We put them in office. They need to listen to us. I was speaking to an elected official in Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago, and he said, you are the first one to come into my office to speak about Gaza. You are the first one, as a person of the clergy, to come to speak to say we need the humanitarian aid to go into Gaza. You are the first one who come to say, we need to stop the war and we need to support ceasefire. Where is your community? Where are the faith leaders? Why they are not knocking on my doors? That's our power, is to organize, to mobilize, to knock on doors, and to hold our elected officials accountable because they work for us. And they need to represent us and what we stand for and what we are passionate and what we care for in our communities. These are not only statistics. These are real people with real stories, with real fathers and mothers and grandparents. These are real people who have perished. Complete families have been wiped in Gaza. They no longer exist. The 123,000 injured, many surgeons are operating with no anesthesia. Many surgeons, while they are operating, they are receiving their own children, either injured or dead. How long, O Lord? How long are we going to allow these war crimes to continue? At the same time, if we think through violence and war and destruction and annihilation and genocide that Israel will be safe, we got that all wrong. Israel today is less safe than it was before October 7. Israel today is much weaker, and they have lost their diplomatic relationships because everybody is saying to them, enough is enough. Now, all of a sudden, the UK, Canada, France, and Germany are waking up after all these people perished to say to Israel, you have to stop this. We have been saying this for the last 75 years. We have been saying this for the last 75 years. My own cousin was assassinated on the vigil of Easter. We finished worship service, and as he was entering his house with his children, he was shot 5 times by the Israeli soldiers and killed. And we pray for peace. We pray for peace. We as a church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, are trying our best to walk humbly and closely with our companions, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land. And we're trying to not be the voice of the voiceless. We are trying to give voice to the voiceless. Because sometimes we want to be the voice of the voiceless, and that is really not fair. We need to give voice to the voiceless to tell their stories, to tell their pain and struggle, to tell what is happening with them. So we created what we call is Sumud. And Sumud is a program for justice in Palestine and Israel. Before this Sumud came into being, we had something called Peace Not Walls. Unfortunately, the wall is already built. The apartheid wall has finished. So that's no longer applicable. So we moved to Sumud, and there is a little video that I want you to watch that explains what Sumud is. And I hope and pray that all of you can become members of the Sumud movement as we continue to engage in this very important work. So let's watch the video, then I'll come back to you.
Dear friends in Christ and the ELCA, greetings from Christmas Lutheran Church in Bethlehem. I'm excited to introduce to you Sumud for Justice in Palestine and Israel. This new initiative of the ELCA is focused on accompaniment, awareness raising, and advocacy for justice in the Holy Land. For more than 75 years, Palestinians in the Holy Land have been living under laws that make them at best second-class citizens, and at worst live behind walls and checkpoints that make it nearly impossible for them to live their daily lives with dignity and human rights.
People are always asking, how can you keep going? How can you still believe, or how can you hope? And all this is answered with one word, sumud.
Sumud is an Arabic word that means steadfastness or resilience. And so Sumud is the new name that the ELCA has chosen for this initiative because we recognize that we as a U.S. Lutheran Church have been invited and called by God to strengthen the sumud of the people and communities most affected by the realities of the occupation in the Holy Land, our Palestinian partners.
During this difficult time, whenever I visit a home, they say, Pastor, we don't want to hear about Jesus anymore. It is time to see Jesus acting in our lives. God has revealed himself through friends who supported us in the midst of our misery.
The ELCA have a long history of engagement in this region through our accompaniment of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land, a Palestinian Lutheran church. This church does so much in this challenged community to create the conditions for sumud. This church has ministries that offer vital services to the entire community in education, in healthcare, in gender and environmental justice, and more. The ELCA has been involved in that work of this church as a supporter for many years, in accompaniment through missionaries, through the Young Adults in Global Mission program, and through other Holy Land trips that invite ELCA members to come and see and then to go and tell. Sumud for Justice in Palestine and Israel believes that before we can talk about peace, we have to talk about justice. In order for the conditions for peace to exist, the foundation needs to be an end to the occupation and a life in which all Palestinians and Israelis have the same access to freedom to live with dignity and with human rights in the land they call home.
Man shall not live by bread alone. What comes from the mouth of God is what gives meaning, what gives a calling. As people of this land, this will help us endure, persist. To me, this is the principle of sumud.
We invite you to join the ELCA Sumud initiative. You can find Sumud on the ELCA website, on Facebook and Instagram to get connected and to stay informed. You can ask your bishop if there is a network in your synod already working for justice in Palestine and Israel. And if not, maybe the Holy Spirit is calling you to help start one. And you can pray. Pray for all of the people of the Holy Land. Pray for the sumud of our Palestinian Christian siblings as they continue to live and work for life and for justice here. And pray that that justice can become a reality and a foundation for peace for all Palestinians and Israelis. We hope that you will join us.
The person who was speaking in the video now is a bishop of the Rocky Mountains. She was our missionary in the church in Jerusalem and got elected as a bishop. So we are very proud of her and for her leadership. And she is a phenomenal leader who served the ELCA well in Jerusalem. And also in the video you saw a young female pastor. That is the first woman to be ordained in the Lutheran Church in Palestine. Pastor Sally. So there is a lot of history and great things in that video. And that will take me to speak to you about our recent solidarity trip that we went on last month. In the picture there you will see Bishop Eaton, our presiding bishop. You will see Bishop Johnson, who is the National Bishop of Canada. Bishop Carla, she's one of the regional bishops in Canada. Catherine Laurie is the officer for interfaith and ecumenical relationships, and Paul, who works very closely with the bishop, and Bishop Azar, who is the bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land. And I want to share with you a few things about our solidarity trip. The first thing that really shocked us when we got there and we start meeting with pastors, with church members, and visiting schools, the question is no longer about peace or justice. The question now is about, are we going to survive this genocide? are we going to be able to stay in our land? This is the first time I go home and I see this fear. I see this incredible uncertainty about what tomorrow will bring. And the bishop, you see this picture, there are some smiles, but I want to assure you, behind these smiles there was a lot of prayers and a lot of tears. And the bishop said, in the church, 150 families left and went outside the Holy Land. Now, 150 families in our context in the United States with millions of people, it might not mean much. But when the Christian population in the whole West Bank is only 1%, which translates to roughly about 45,000 people, 150 families times 4, that is a significant loss to the church. People are leaving because they can no longer live under these harsh, difficult conditions where restriction on movement, daily settler attacks on towns and villages, checkpoints everywhere. The bishop told us in the Bethlehem area alone, the Israeli army has installed 94 gates. That means they can press a remote control, close the street, and it become the whole area paralyzed. They end the movement. And I have my sister who lives in the Bethlehem region. Her son just graduated from high school, and now he's going to college. I talk to her almost every day to see how she's doing because she's constantly being attacked by the settlers because she has a prime real estate that they're trying to steal from her. It's in the Israeli High Court, and they've been fighting for years to protect the land, and now they have internationals who come and live on the land to protect it from the settlers who continue to come on the land to burn the trees, destroy their trees, destroy their house that is on the land. And now the Israeli soldiers themselves come with the settlers to protect the settlers to do the destruction on her land. Some of you might have heard of Tent of Nations. Anybody heard of Tent of Nations? That is my sister's land. That's where my sister spent most of her days trying to protect that land to be stolen by the settlers. What she's telling me now, because of her son goes to college, that every day when her son leaves the house to go to college, she doesn't know if he's going to come back or not. That is a very scary reality to be living with. You don't know if your son who's going to college to receive education will be coming home. And what we are witnessing and seeing, you might not see it in the TV, in CNN or Fox News. What we are seeing and what our families are sending us, that the Israeli soldiers will shoot babies, 8, 10, 12 years old. Snipers will shoot them with no care in the world. So my sister is saying to me, every day he leaves, I sit and cry my eyes out because I don't know if he's going to return home. And the bishop said to us, please go back to the U.S. and tell people we are getting tired, we are exhausted, we can't handle this anymore. We're trying to care for our people, but our people have lost hope. Pastor Rahib, which I know he has visited this church, he wrote a book called Bethlehem Besieged. In that book, he wrote a very powerful statement. He said, our young people have no hope living, but they have hope dying. Our people don't have hope living, but they have hope dying. Because when you can't travel, you can't get a job, you can't get married. Every time you go through a checkpoint, you are humiliated, insulted, imprisoned, or stopped for hours. There is no hope for living. And he said in his book, if you wonder why we have suicide bombers, because Israel created them by taking away their hope. And that is a reality. The second thing, when we went to visit the schools, What was really terrifying to me, I walked into one of the classes with the team, and the teacher asked the kids to sing a song. And I broke down. I started crying, and I walked out. The reason, because when I was their age, I sang the same song. Give us peace, give us our humanity, allow us to live. I sang that very same song when I was in their age at 6 years old. And here is years, well, I'm not going to say how old I am, but years later, they're still singing the same song, asking for peace, to allow them to live, and allow them their humanity. Our Lutheran schools are doing their best in the Holy Land to provide education. They have received many children from Gaza who came to the West Bank, and they received them in their schools. What they are telling us that these children who come to our Lutheran schools are traumatized. They are afraid, they are scared, they can't focus. They be on themselves without control. They will be sitting and screaming out of control because of the traumatization that they have witnessed in Gaza. You can see the destruction. You can see these little children who are living in tents, if they are lucky, with the water pouring down on them, with the bullets and the bombs and the rockets raining down on them. And they're trying to survive. So this is what one of the reports from a group of psychologists said. They have sleep disorders and nightmares, regression in developmental milestones, difficulty concentrating in school, fear and anxiety affecting daily activities. But these little children, now they are taking a different role. They are going to look under every rock and every stone for a piece of bread to eat. They are standing for hours and hours at UN food distribution places that with the hope that they can get something to feed their elderly and their parents. This is not the way we are going to raise another generation and give them hope. These kids have been out of school for almost a year and a half now. No education. No education. Now imagine that our kids in this country miss one day of school. Boy, they have missed almost 2 years now. And many of the children in Gaza, this is not their first war, or second war, or third war, or fourth war, or fifth war. If you are 16 years old in Gaza today, you have experienced at least 5 wars. Think about that. What kind of psychology, what kind of mentality these kids are living with? And when we see something happen inside Israel, like stabbing or shooting or bombing, we get terrified. Well, the truth is, Israel has raised generations who are filled with anger and hate, generations who are filled with this mentality that I need to take revenge and to carry something to defend myself. So we should not be surprised when we see these things happen, because these people live without hope. And honestly, there are a lot of people who will be happy to recruit them to carry out their political agendas. But this is the reality. Our children are living in devastating conditions. The educators in Israel said, and this is about 1,000 educators in Israel. These are Israelis, professors, doctors. They just issued a statement to the Israeli government, and 1,000 educators in Israel signed it, and they said, we cannot say we didn't know. We cannot say we didn't know. Israeli academics demand end to war on Gaza. Unlike other domestic letters protesting against Israel's war on Gaza, the academics' letter centers on the suffering of Palestinians. We also cannot claim that we don't know. We can't say that we didn't know that there is a genocide happening in Gaza today. We can't say that we didn't know there is ethnic cleansing happening in Gaza today. We can't. We are seeing genocide in real time. These academics in Israel finally are taking a stand. Maybe it's too late, but at least they are taking a stand. There is also another letter was written by the Israeli military pilots. They say they can no longer carry these bombings on Gaza. So here is what they said in the letter. As academics, we recognize our own role in these crimes. The letter states, it is human societies, not governments alone, that commit crimes against humanity. Some do so by means of direct violence. Others do so by sanctioning the crimes and justifying them before and after the fact, and by keeping quiet and silencing voices in the halls of learning. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? You know what's happening in this country with our educational institutions, revoking visas, arresting people who are protesting and asking for justice. It is the bond of silence that allows clearly evident crimes to continue unbattered without penetrating the barriers of recognition. This is Israeli academics saying this about what's happening by their government against the Palestinians. And I look what's happening in this country. When the student movement started last year, it was an excitement for us. It gave me hope that our young people are protesting and taking a stand, firm stand on the issues of injustice. But now we see the retaliation from the Trump administration. People who protested the genocide in Gaza being arrested, visas are being revoked, people not allowed to come back into the country. It's really fascinating what's happening here. My own daughter, 20 years old in the University of Central Florida, received a letter from Governor DeSantis himself threatening her. This is my 20-year-old daughter. Governor DeSantis wrote her a letter saying to her, if you protest, if you belong to any club, if you do anything to support Hamas, which he means supporting the Palestinian cause, your scholarship will be revoked. She has a full scholarship because she's very smart, taken after her mother. And you will be charged out of state tuition. Not only that, he will revoke her scholarship, but he also will charge her out of state tuition. Imagine that. I send my daughter for college to receive education, to experiment, to explore, to discover her passion and identity, and here is the governor threatening her, you are not allowed to do that. If you think that our freedom of speech exists, it does not exist anymore. And now the weaponization of this term of anti-Semitism is being weaponized to silence anybody who will speak truth to power, who will speak about the injustice that's happening in our world. I was called anti-Semite, even though I am a Semite myself. And what's happening with Harvard and Columbia, that they are supporting anti-Semitism by allowing people to demonstrate against the genocide in Gaza, it's to me is unfathomable. The letter goes on to say, we cannot claim that we did not know, the letter adds. We have been silent for too long. For the sake of the lives of innocents and the safety of all the people of the land, if we do not call to halt the war immediately, history will not forgive us. History will not forgive us. The silence and the complicity of the church in the West is overwhelming. It is fascinating to me when churches run to the Bible to try to justify the war on Gaza from biblical narratives and prophecies. It really blows my mind when people trying to justify the killing of 54,000 people from the Bible. It amazes me how the Christian Zionist movement does not even recognize my Christianity as a Palestinian. It does not recognize the existence of the Palestinian indigenous Christian community. They care about their ideology more than they care about God's people and creation. And I believe that is the very definition of sin. When you put your ideology more important than the human and the neighbor that God has called you to serve. That is shame on us. But the complicity and the silence of the church is overwhelming for us. I will have to say, even in the ELCA, we're trying our best, but sometimes we fall short because we want to be balanced. In the issue of justice, either you are for justice or you are against justice. There is no middle ground. And I am today have some hope because before I came here, there was some conversation about Israel accepting the U.S. deal for ceasefire for 60 days on the condition of releasing 10 living hostages and 10 dead hostages. What's going to happen after 60 days? Go back and kill more people? Violence and bombing of Gaza did not release one hostage. What released hostages was the ceasefire, was giving people back their right and dignity. That's why I continue to be a firm believer that nonviolent solution to this war and crisis is important. And this country, one word from this country can stop this whole madness. One word from the president can stop this whole madness. But we refuse to say it. We refuse to say it. Trump went from seeing Gaza as a real estate opportunity, and now he's talking about different things. Let's see what happens next. When I was in Palestine, worshiping on Palm Sunday on the Mount of Olives with the delegation and the bishops, I received this message from the Archbishop of the Episcopal Church in Jerusalem. That picture there. He said to me, the only functioning hospital in Gaza, which is their hospital, and our chapel, St. Philip Chapel in Gaza, just got bombed. That was on Palm Sunday, while people are worshiping, and that is the only left functioning hospital that Israel bombed. Israel does not worry about bombing hospitals, schools, refugee camps, UN shelters, or burning people alive while they're sleeping in their tents. And that's the statement the Archbishop has put out about the hospital. And this is not the only hospital. Dar el-Kalima University, which is a Lutheran university that Pastor Mitri Rahib has started in Gaza, destroyed completely. The other picture, right here, she is a doctor. She was on her shift, working, trying to save lives. She received 7 people just to discover that they are her children. 7 children, all dead by an airstrike by the Israelis. I don't know what to say more about this. I think the picture says it all. The picture says it all. We are living in a time where food is used as a weapon for starvation. We are living in a time where the Bible is used as a weapon for justification of war crimes. We are living in a time where dehumanization become normal and to call others animals to justify their killing. I hate to use some vocabulary because first, I am in the church. Second, because I value the lives of the people who have been killed. But this dehumanization is just what makes the heart of God bleed. I just want to take you very quickly, I know because of time, and when I have some time for questions. The first point I want to speak to you, which is about the weaponization of the Bible. Please be careful about people who try to justify the war in Gaza from the Bible, or to use the prophecies to say, this is the will of God. If this is the will of God, then their God is not our God. I'm sorry to say it. God said, love your neighbor as yourself. God said to care for the vulnerable. God sided with the marginalized. Jesus was born in a manger with the poor. Jesus was not in alliance with the empire. Jesus was in alliance with the people who suffered because of the empire. So people who are trying to justify this war from the Bible, they are supporting actually the theology of the empire. A theology that does not care about people or humanity, it cares more about politics and land grab and dehumanization of the other. And demonization of the other. So please be careful when we speak about the Bible and the use of the Bible. But also be mindful of our baptismal vows. How many baptismal vows we have? 5. 5. No, 5. The last one of our baptismal vows is the most important one. You know what it says? To work for justice and peace in the whole world. So when you come out on Thursday night to the church to listen to this presentation and this crazy guy, you are actually living into your baptismal vows. You are living into what you are created and born again to be, which is an advocate for justice. This is how you are living into the fullness of your baptism. This is how you are living into the fullness what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. This is what it means to be a difference maker in the world. When you live into your baptismal vows and to work for peace and justice in all the world. That means the person in Gaza who is sitting there on a bed starving to death is your brother or your sister. That's why this weaponization of the Bible and this dehumanization of the people of Palestine really goes against our faith and values. It goes against what God has called us to be in the world, to be signs of hope, healing, reconciliation. The next one, I just want to speak about this, because today Israel has approved the biggest settlement expansion in the West Bank, just today. While people are focused on Gaza, they are taking and confiscating and building more settlements in the West Bank. What does this mean? More people in the West Bank will be displaced from their land and from their homes. What this means, when I was in Jerusalem, I see it in my very own eyes. The settlers will come into Palestinian homes in the old city of Jerusalem, take their furniture, their stuff, throw it out, move in, lock the doors, and it becomes their house. This is the reality in the city of Jerusalem today. And all of a sudden, there's a big Israeli flag flying on top of a Palestinian house, and they are living there. The settler violence and the killing under the Israeli army protection is a violation of every international law. The very buildings of the settlements on Palestinian land is in violation of international law. It's a war crime. The next one, we need to continue to speak about the church complicity and its silence. And I beg you to speak to other churches in this area about what are they doing to move the cause of justice. In this country, when I came, I was fascinated because I will go visit churches and they will tell me, oh, we have a great relationship with the synagogue in town. I said, did you ever visit a mosque? Oh, no, we don't. And it's fascinating because every time I will go to a church to speak, and when I finish my speech, I will say, any questions? And the first person will put their hand up and they will say, when did you convert to Christianity? And I will say, 2,000 years ago on the day of Pentecost. They think that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, or D.C., or Wittenberg, Germany, or Canada. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Palestine. He's a Palestinian Jew. But we forget about that. And the church becomes so complicit in the narrative of the injustice because we don't know the other. The other point I want to make you aware of is how we can continue to address the U.S. unconditional support to Israel, weapons, political and diplomatic coverage, use of veto, money, and political support. This is really important, and this is where you can become effective. I want to tell you a story. When I go to speak to elected officials, somehow, for some reason, they never believe me. But when I take my white allies with me, and they say the same thing that I said, they believe them. I don't know why. I have an innocent face. But for some reason, they don't believe me, but they believe you. So I want to tell you, use your white privilege to do something good. Use your white privilege. I'm giving you permission. Here you go. I am executive director. Use your white privilege for something good. And sometimes I go and people tell me, like, I'm old. I can't do anything. I gave a sermon one time, and in the sermon I said, Jesus is calling you to retire from retirement to serve Jesus. And I will say to you tonight, God is calling you to retire from retirement to support justice. And that is really the call of every and each one of us. And it's fascinating to me when I look at the United Nations, when they sit in the Security Council to vote. Did you recognize something about the U.S. representative? It's always a person of color, mostly a black person. I wonder why. I wonder why. And they will put their hand and will be shaking because they know they are not doing the right thing. But they put us to make these difficult decisions to serve the empire. And that's shame on us. I want to conclude with you with my own story. At the age of 19, I was at Bethlehem Bible College, and the president was doing a trip, and he said, why don't you come sleep at our house, because we're going to be leaving at 4 in the morning, and this way you can ride with me because we're going to go collect the other students. And I said, okay, that will be fun. So I know the president, he's my godfather, so I went to sleep in his house. About 2 in the morning, I was woken up by my father, and I was shocked because I wasn't at home. And he said, wake up, don't be afraid. As it was going on, before I say anything, I was rushed by the Israeli soldiers. They pulled me up from bed, threw me on the floor, tied my hands behind my back, shoved me into a military jeep, and they put a bag on my head. I was 19, and I have no idea what was happening. I was scared, I was terrified. All what I can hear in the background is my father saying, don't worry, don't be afraid. and they took me, and I disappeared. I was in prison for 56 days. For 56 days, I was in solitary confinement in a prison this high, this wide, and this wide. I was tortured every day. I was beaten every day. I was never allowed to take a shower, shave, change my clothes. I was tortured and put to sleep in the cold every single day for 56 days. The first time that I was able to see my lawyer was 36 days after I was arrested. And I saw him for maybe 2 minutes. My parents did not know if I was dead or alive. And they did the impossible to figure out where I was. Finally, they found out what the prison I was in. The lawyer came to visit me, and the only thing that my mother can send with my lawyer was 2 things: change of clothes and my Bible. I saw the lawyer. He said, what's happening? Before I was able to say anything, they pulled me to take me away from him, and I grabbed the bag that he brought with him, and the soldier there refused to give me the bag. So I start arguing with him, saying, okay, you can keep everything, just give me my Bible. And he refused. So I got loud. He started kicking me and slapping me. Then another soldier came and he grabbed me, and he walked me back to my cell. In the way back to the cell, he asked me a question: are you Christian or Muslim? I said, I'm a Christian. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, you tell me. You arrested me. In their mind, they think it's religious war. It's not. It's not religious war. It's not about Islam and Judaism. It is ideological war. It's not a religious war. He couldn't understand why, as a Christian Palestinian, I would be in prison. So he put me in the cell, and somehow that soldier started to care for me. And he will, like, in the morning, they will bring the food. Usually, they'll take every tray, put it in front of the cell, then take every prisoner out. You take the cell into your cell to eat, and it's outdoors, so by the time you take the tray in, the birds and the cats will eat half of it. So he will take me out of my cell to distribute the trays, just a way, kind of get me out of the cell for a little while. But, you know, I was dirty. I never changed my clothes. My beard that I have today is from prison when I was 19. I never shaved it except one time when I got married. That was the only condition my wife had. I wanted to get married. And I was really confused because, you know, in prison, you don't know who to trust. You don't know who to talk to. And I was in solitary confinement for, at that time, about 40 days. And, you know, you are beaten every day. During the interrogation, they hit me in the back of my head. I was bleeding so bad that they had to take me to military hospital to give me stitches. And I start praying to God. It's like, God, if this is your angel for me in prison, I need to know if I can trust him or not. To make a long story short, I prayed to God. I said, if this is your angel for me in a prison, let him bring me a piece of chocolate. I know for Lutherans this sounds crazy, but that's my prayer. And the crazy thing is that was my favorite chocolate, which is an Israeli-made chocolate. So that night, he was on a night shift, and I was really in pain from the torture, and my head was bleeding. And about 1 a.m, he knocked on the door, and I went. There was a little hole in the door, like this big, where the soldiers will come and look inside to see what you are doing. And he said, listen, I know you went to the hospital today, and you were bleeding, but I just finished my dinner, and I brought you this piece of chocolate. I want to give it to you. So he passed that piece of chocolate through the hole in the door, and it is the same exact piece of chocolate that I prayed for. I started to cry, and he couldn't understand why I'm crying, so he opened the door to the cell. And he said, what's happening? I said, well, I prayed to God, if you are his angel for me in the prison, that he'll bring me this piece of chocolate, and here you are. You just brought the piece of chocolate. He started to cry. Here is an Israeli soldier with Israeli uniform, with heavy weaponry, and me, a Palestinian, in my prison suit, crying. And he said to me, stay strong, there is nothing against you on the computer, stay strong. I said, I decided in my head I will not confess to anything because I didn't do anything wrong. But the fact is that you are Palestinian, you are already guilty by association. After that, I was released from prison about like 3 in the morning. They just came and they said, go home. I was never charged with anything. Until this day, I don't know why I was arrested. All what I know, that for 56 days, I was kicked, beaten, tortured. I was hanged upside down. People were jumping on my chest. I had to spend years seeing doctors because of the damage that they have done to my body. And I still suffer from it till our day. I know the ugliness of the Israeli occupation firsthand. The president of our college was invited to a Messianic Jew to speak about his student and what happened with him in prison. So he went and he spoke about my story, and as he sat down, a young man stood up and he said, I am the Israeli soldier. So he put him in the car and he brought him to our house, which was crazy to bring an Israeli soldier to our house. And it was incredible reunion. And we remain friends to our day. My mother says she has 2 sons, but her favorite is Shmolik, the Israeli soldier. Which breaks my heart. But the reason I share this story with you, because I believe peace is possible. I believe that we can coexist. I believe that we can have 2 states side by side, both Palestinian state and Israeli state, with self-determination and with safety and security. The problem that we are facing, all the outside influences and support that continue to fuel the division instead of supporting peace and building bridges. The story of Shmolik and myself is a story that can really make the difference about how we engage. We saw each other as 2 people outside of our own identities and hatred and histories, and we saw each other as humans. And when we can recognize the humanity in the other, that is the time we can make a difference in the world. So the last thing I want to share with you is what can I do, what you can do. First, we need to pray for peace. But honestly, we are getting tired as Palestinians of prayers and statements. We are getting very tired. What we want action. We want you to become the answer of the prayer that you are praying. Our prayer that you become the answer of our prayers. That means what you are doing in the back, writing letters to your elected officials, that's beautiful. Show up at their doors. Show up at their doors. Call them every single day. Organize, mobilize, and participate in whatever happening in your community to support peace. The bishop said, please go back to the U.S. and tell people to come and visit us. We need people to come and stand with us in solidarity. The people of the Bethlehem region are getting tired. All of them, without exception, depend heavily in tourism. And for the last 2 years, there is no tourists that visited Bethlehem. That's been all the Palestinian Christian families who depend on tourism have nothing to eat. And the bishop said, please go and bring people to come visit us. And they are here for a week. We are living here every single day. What happened yesterday The Israeli soldiers went to the Bethlehem region and they attacked all the money changers and the gold shops and confiscated all that, worth of 60 million shekels. And people are already hurting, and now they took whatever they have left. So the bishop said, please invite people to come in solidarity. This solidarity trip was very meaningful and affirming of who we are as a church, to show up in places of brokenness, to be signs of hope and healing and support and courage. They want to know that people are loving them and supporting them. Unfortunately, we spoke about the church complicity, and there are churches around the world actually threatening the church in the Holy Land. They are putting conditions on them. You are not allowed to use ethnic cleansing or genocide. And if you use this language, we are going to cut our support. We are going to stop recognizing you. Instead of supporting church that is doing incredible work, the churches are limiting their ministry and witness. And that's why the bishop said, please come and visit. Please come and see, he said, and go and tell. Please come and see and go and tell. So I hope tonight you have come to see and you will go and tell. And please organize, work together. You are the advocates who can be the changers of the whole game and the balance to bring a lasting justice and peace for the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Khader. It's so good to have you here. And
I'm sorry I went over, but...
Yeah, would you have time for some questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll bring a microphone. If you would raise your hand, I'm glad to bring a microphone for questions if anyone would like to ask. And if someone has some water. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Hopefully you got that... a little bit of water there. So,
thank you.
Are you being threatened or silenced in this country right now?
The answer is yes. And I receive tons of hate mail every single day. In my own social platforms, in calls. As I told you, I was accused of being anti-Semite. Because I'm speaking about the situation and what's happening. And honestly, sometimes our closest friends trying to tell me, cool it down. If you go to my wife's Facebook post that she did yesterday, she said, there's a lot of people calling us to cool it down. How can we? How can we? I mean, look at what's happening. When you see little babies burning, from bombs that dropped on their heads while they are sleeping in tents displaced from their homes. How can we? When my sister tells me that she is terrified when her son goes to college, how can I? When my sister, every single day, settlers coming into her land to destroy her trees, to threaten her life, and the Israeli High Court will not grant her justice, how can I? So the answer is yes. My daughter, who's very active in her campus, is getting threatened every single day. And sometimes even harassed by some people on campus because of her activism. And when a governor will write a letter to her to threaten her to lose her scholarship, that is significant. That is significant.
Does the ELCA have an action to divest from Israel?
We have, the Presbyterian Church is awesome. If any Presbyterians in the house, thank you. You are amazing. We are not there yet. We have developed some screens for like Portico and Thrivent to help them not invest in companies that directly support the Israeli occupation of Palestine. But the ELCA does not support the sanctions or the divestments or the boycott as our siblings in the Presbyterian Church are doing. We continue to advocate, we continue to work hard, and for me, I am in a complex situation because I am the executive director of the Service and Justice Unit that's supposed to help this church to be in the work of service and justice, and I am Palestinian. So we have done some movement, but we are not there yet. And we need to continue to push that forward. But I want to tell you how this works. Synods can send a memorial to memorialize the church-wide assembly to do the boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Synods have a lot of power, and I hope your synod can organize to bring a memorial to the church-wide assembly to do that. But we are not there yet. I wish we are, but we are not. We care so much not to invest in companies like alcohol and tobacco, but in companies that support genocide, we're still investing in. Did I just say that? I think I did. Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. I wonder if you can speak about any non-governmental organizations that are on the ground in Gaza able to provide any kind of healthcare, food, or whatever.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking that question. Augusta Victoria Hospital, which is a Lutheran ministry for the Lutheran World Federation based in Jerusalem, they have also a satellite clinics in Gaza. Some of it got destroyed, but what they are doing now, they are getting mobile clinics, and they are ready to send them to Gaza, but we are waiting for permission by the Israeli government to allow us to bring them in. El-Ahli hospital is the same thing. It's supported by the Episcopal Diocese, and they are very active in the healthcare there. There's a lot of organization in the ground of what's happening in Gaza today, that the Israeli government will target anybody who is providing any humanitarian aid. They are targeting journalists, and they are targeting like the bakeries, people standing at the bakery, and they bomb the bakery, kill the baker and the people standing there. So Israel intentionally targeting anybody who will do anything to help the people in Gaza today. So, but we are ready. I was with the Archbishop, the Catholic Archbishop in Jerusalem. We went to visit with him. He was the candidate to be the Pope, by the way. I was praying for him. And he was able to make it onto Gaza and to visit the churches in Gaza. And he was able to take some limited supplies with him that he was permitted to take by the Israeli army. But he said when you get there and you see the situation with your eyes and you see the amount of destruction on both sides of the street, it's overwhelming. And plus the smell, because the sewer systems and everything is destroyed. There is no infrastructure. He said the smell it's the stench of death and sewer. Everything's mixed together. So there are limited number of humanitarian aid on the ground, and there are doctors that we know that will do whatever it takes to get into Gaza to provide health services, and we know some of them who are there already. Thank you.
Maybe we'll have this and then one more question.
There is another one there.
Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate you sharing your prison story because it gives that sense of hope about Palestinians and Israelis meeting each other as human beings in that moment. And of course, we know that Palestinians and Jews lived together in that land for a long time before Israel was created. So my question is about you talking about a two-state solution when Israel already controls the whole land. It has taken over
80% of Gaza at the moment and almost 80% of the West Bank, and it's taking more land every day, as we know. So why are we not talking about the whole land, from the river to the sea, for everyone? How can we talk about dividing a land that's already beyond division? Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a very complex question. First, all what I'm saying that we have UN resolutions that was passed in 1967-68 that have not been implemented for the Palestinians, where all the UN resolutions for the Israeli side have been implemented. So when I speak about two-state solution, I'm just saying for the UN, implement the very resolution that you have passed. But as I said, that today Israel has approved the biggest expansion of settlements in the West Bank. So the land grab is not stopping, it's continuing. Now, I believe as a Palestinian that we need to recognize the existence of the State of Israel. But that should not be on the account or the expense or the cost of the Palestinian people. It has to be, when we say we recognize, they have also to recognize our right to exist in our ancestral land. And I know a lot of Palestinian people who do not agree with me, and they don't agree on recognizing the State of Israel and from the river to the sea. But I can't at this time to say that. I think I will support the two-state solution. We can coexist together, and we can find a way to coexist and to live in peace and security and self-determination. But I will honor and respect for people who will say from the river to the sea, that's their right, and I will support what I stand for. But I think we have witnessed so much pain and suffering and destruction, and I just need a nonviolent solution for both so we can coexist together. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the best answer I can give, but that's what I believe. Yeah. But thank you for the question.
Well, I suppose you heard about the Penn State poll that showed 87% of the people, of the Jews living in Israel, support everything the ADF is doing. 87%. And so that leaves us with one person to do anything at all, right? And that's Trump. But when you said a 6-week hiatus in the fighting, right? You just mentioned that?
Yeah, a ceasefire for 60 days.
Keep in mind that Trump needs 6 weeks to pass his bill, his big, beautiful bill, and he can't pass it if the Jewish lobby and the Zionist Christian lobby goes against him. So that might be buying for time. It might be a very good sign. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I want to say to you that Israel is dealing with dilemma now, that there's a lot of Israeli soldiers are refusing to serve. Not enough. And it's interesting that the one person, Israeli, who got killed in Gaza today was a civilian contractor who was driving a bulldozer to destroy Palestinian homes, because they can't get enough soldiers to go and work and be in Gaza. Now they have private contractors. So that's really interesting. It's very good. And we are seeing more and more Israeli soldiers are organizing to say we will no longer serve in the Israeli army in the occupied Palestinian territories. You know, I always say to people, look at the Jewish Voice for Peace. It's an incredible organization that put amazing materials out there. I'm not going to tell you about Palestinians because you might not believe me. But the Jewish Voice for Peace is a good resource for you to look at. Combatant for Peace, also a good resource. B'Tselem, which is right there in Israel, they put incredible reports, and it's Israeli, so B'Tselem also is very good. If it's not now, when? Another group, which is phenomenal, they put a lot of stuff. And I'm talking about Jewish groups and organizations who are committed to the cause of justice and ending the genocide against the Palestinians. So please check out these resources. They are very good. He's bringing the microphone.
I don't even understand this question very well, but I'll just put it out there.
Please.
What can Hamas do to advance this vision of a two-state solution and peace? Obviously, they get accused of not wanting peace. And I wish you could interpret for me what they need to do or what needs to be done around them to promote peace.
I'm going to flip your question. Israel is saying that we want to destroy Hamas. We want to end Hamas. Hamas is not an organized army. It's a movement. You kill one today, you're creating 10 tomorrow. That's a reality. To end Hamas, you end the occupation. Because Hamas was created because of the occupation. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of Hamas because Israel has a lot to do with it and its creation. Netanyahu has a lot to do with Hamas and financing Hamas. He's the one who went to Qatar asking them to give them billions of dollars. So I'm not going to go into history of Hamas. But if you want to end Hamas and destroy Hamas, as you claim you want to do, the Israeli government, then end the occupation. Then there is no reason for them to exist. So the question, sometimes we get caught in vocabularies and ideologies. The fact is, the resistant movements of the Palestinian people exist because the occupation exists. People have the right to resist occupation. I mean, imagine Wisconsin is under occupation. Everybody in Wisconsin have the obligation and the right under international law. The UN resolution says very clearly that the Palestinians have the right to resist the Israeli occupation in any means possible. That's a UN resolution. I did not write it. It's in the UN Charter. The Palestinians have the right to resist the Israeli occupation in any means possible. So when we speak about Hamas, I can speak about Israeli groups that don't recognize the right of the Palestinians to exist. And if you remember Kahana, who was bombing every place, even in this country, he was bombing people and killing Palestinians, and the FBI terrorists put him in the terrorist group. So it's not about who, it's about the why. The moment we address the why, we can end the who. But that's the way to. The solution is end the Israeli occupation of Palestine. The moment we end that, the moment we have peace. The moment Hamas will no longer exist. I hope I answered your question. Maybe not.
I think there's some kind of formula, a pledge, or even a pledge to participate in Palestinian politics as a non-military force. I do not know what it looks like, but I don't think I can say that, that of course they have a right to resist.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, going down and seeing the last Palestinian die for that right to resist, there's some better way, some diplomacy or some kind of formula which can come from the resistance, which might put the Israelis back on their defensive and provide something that the world can support.
Well, I think the world is waking up. When Germany now is threatening to cut economic relations with Israel, that's a huge, especially because Germany was the most supportive of Israel. And when we speak about Sumud, the theology of Sumud is resistance through existence. That's how is the Palestinian liberation theologians define the term sumud, resistance through existence. And the closest two people are the Algerian people and the Palestinian people. And the Palestinian people know that the Algerian people paid the price of 1 million martyrs to end the French occupation of Algeria. So for us, we always say as Palestinian, we are willing to die for our land. But the Israelis are willing to kill for the land. You see the difference? It's our land. We are willing to die for it. It's not their land, but they are willing to kill for it. And that's why when you see Yemen and the Houthis throw a rocket on Israel, you see the Israelis running to the airport and they want to leave the country. For us, we get in the rooftops to watch where the rocket. We get excited when I see where the rocket is going. It's our land. And that's the difference, that we are willing to die for it, they are willing to kill for it. And I think Israel is losing the international support. And finally, the bishops in Norway put out a statement that is phenomenal, outstanding. More and more countries are recognizing the right of Palestine as a state. The one who will be left alone is the US. It becomes the question of the US. Are you want to be on the right side of history, or you want to be judged by history? And at this time, we will be judged by history. Because we, as the academics say, we can say that we did not know. We know. We can say that we don't know. We know. And tonight, you know. And when you know, you know.
One last question for the evening, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here and speaking to us. My question to you is, you've been a pastor in America, and also you have been in Palestine, and you're from Palestine, and you've seen the work there. What difference do you see between a pastor in a land that is technically at peace versus a pastor who is in a land that is at war?
Wow. How much time we have? 3 hours? Well, very, very shortly. If you look at our pastors in Palestine, they have every opportunity to travel and to leave the country. They speak many languages, they have access, they have relatives, they have the means to leave the country, but they choose to remain because they want to care for their flock and for their people. While they are remaining, they are developing theology, which is deeply grounded in biblical understanding what it means to be a person who will resist evil and injustice. Pastor Mitri Rahib, Pastor Munder Isaac, who just wrote a book which I hope you will buy and read, Christ in the Rebel. Naim Atiq, the godfather of the Palestinian liberation theology. These people are stayed there, and they are giving us a new way of understanding what it means to be a disciple of Jesus in the world today, to fight for inclusivity, for people on the margins, for the vulnerable, for honoring people's identity and who God created them to be. They are taking risks. Now, pastors outside of these areas, like pastors in this country here, we have a lot of privileges. Some of them who take risks. And when you take risks, it comes with a huge cost. I have a pastor, he was preaching on Sunday, he was preaching the gospel, and people got up from the church, including some of his council members, and left. So he called me. I am the assistant to the bishop at that time. He said, they just left. I said, why? He said, I don't know. They said that I'm preaching politics. I said, send me your sermon. I read his sermon. There is nothing about politics. But the way they heard it, their filters, they thought he was preaching politics. So I said, you have to make a decision. Are you going to be faithful to God or faithful to the offering plate? So let me conclude with you with this joke, since you spoke about that. So do you know why rabbis have more faith than pastors? I'll tell you why. Because when the pastors collect the offering on Sunday morning, they draw a circle and put a line in the middle. They take the offering plate and they throw it. Whatever on the right is for God, whatever on the left is for the pastor. The rabbis have more faith. They take the offering plate, they throw the money in the air. What goes up is for God, what comes down is for them. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Thank you.